Welcome, welcome. Welcome to Reclaim Today. My name is Tim Owens. I'm the co-founder of Reclaim Hosting, and you're probably sitting there wondering what the hell is Reclaim Today, and that's really the purpose of this first episode. I'm joined by Meredith.
Hi, I'm Meredith. I'm a customer support specialist here at Reclaim Hosting. And Tim and I work in the office, but we also have two remote people at the company.
Hi, I'm one of the remote people. They call us mole people. They call us online mole people. What we're doing that. And I'm Jim Groom, and I like to talk a lot on camera.
This is going to be dangerous for you, I can tell.
You're the other co-founder. And then I'm Lauren Brumfield. I'm also remote, and I am an account manager at Reclaim Hosting. So I've been here for about 3 years, and up until now, we've tried to keep the meetings minimal, and now we're starting a podcast. Yeah.
So it's meetings all day long.
Exactly. As we were joking before we got live, this is going to be like the Truman Show company. Like everything you do, you got the chest camera on, key logging. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. What could go wrong?
Nothing.
Exactly.
These things never go wrong. But, I was talking to Meredith earlier, and I was saying, this is very much like how our company runs. I mean, half of our workforce is remote. And I think it's really interesting to think about, how do you do this in a distributed fashion? How do you, not just have meetings and stuff, but start a podcast where you can meet regularly and do that? Which I think is probably a struggle for people to think about when you're used to working face-to-face in an office environment. It's got a lot easier than it had even before, I think, anyway. We're using Google Hangouts for this, Hangout on Air, so we can actually live stream this out and bring in other people, which we plan to do in the future episodes. We didn't feel like we were ready quite at this point, but we can send the link out and have the community engaging with us as well. But all with sort of basically free software. Obviously, free comes with its own stipulations when it comes to Google and what you're giving up. But able to do this pretty cheaply and pretty seamlessly, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to keep things professional here at Reclaim Hosting.
Yeah.
Well, one of the early kind of how would you say it? Kind of like mantras of the work at DTLT, and we'll talk about the nostalgia in DTLT today and this, because I think the two are related, but was fast, cheap, and out of control. Was, try and get things up, try and make them affordable so that you can do it. And it comes from an Errol Morris documentary with the same name. But it has this idea of the web as a place to kind of experiment. And I mean, I do believe that the work at Reclaim Hosting came out of that culture. And I think the idea of us just trying to spend a little bit of time every day documenting what we're thinking and having fun with it is so valuable. And I am so on board with this. So when Tim got the bug yesterday, I was like, yes. And I'm not surprised a day later, it's happening. It's happening!
Yeah, I mean, I was watching some DTLT Today episodes, and this obviously is the name even of the podcast does a little bit of a homage to that. And for me, it's like you said, it was very much sort of an archive of work of our thinking at the time, just really important stuff that you don't want to lose. And blogging obviously has its place in that as well, a very important place, I think, to be able to document and narrate, what your thoughts are. But I love the idea of having video as well, and to really be able to go back and see oh, that's what was going on at the time. And, to me, it's sort of a time capsule of that. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited for, what we're doing. As far as, how often we do it, we'll see.
Yeah, and we have a good list of topics so far. So yeah. I think we will start out of the box strong and keep going.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good.
Yeah. And also, I think we've made a real effort with everything we do at Reclaim to be as open as possible. Mm-hmm. It's about sharing our conversations. We all blog, that we have a ton of documentation. We keep things cheap and open, open to an extent, obviously, but just we're always sharing what we're doing. And, if we're going to be having meetings, we just started a weekly check-in meeting on Fridays, you know, just to check in with each other. And it just seems natural that we're sort of publicizing some of that too. You know, I imagine this being a space where we talk about, you know, the future of Reclaim and different tools that we're looking at, and, you know, how we envision, you know, inner workings and outer workings and all of the above. And so the more that we can bring some of that conversation to this platform and then ask the community to step in and how, you know, give their opinions and things, I think it's cool. And I think it only seems like a natural fit for us. So
I agree too. And I think, you know, it's like a classroom. Like, I like being in a classroom. I like talking, not just to hear myself talk, although I'm not going to say I don't like it, but also because usually that's where ideas generate and things go back and forth. And we do have things really in line at Reclaim in a lot of ways. But if we can find the opportunity on a regular basis to commune like this openly, like you said, and share what we're thinking, maybe share cool work that's happening, you know, maybe just talk openly about an idea we're considering. And, you know, audience is, you know, nice, but it's not required, right? Like, that was always the punchline of DS-106 radio, right? Like, nobody's listening. And, you know, you want to think it is, but always it's not about everybody. It's about a few people. And I think we've had that in spades already in terms of community. So I love the idea of just doing it. But I think one of the things, and here we go, right? Already I'm transitioning to paragraph 2. But one of the things that I think is interesting that we were talking about briefly before we started it, and I think that, you know, having a barking dog is always important, but beyond that, the idea is, can you make things like easy enough? Like Google Hangouts, you know, we'll experiment and build on top of this as we go. But like, we did this at UMW for a number of years, or at least a year consistently. And part of what made that possible is it was, as Tim said, the tech was just complicated enough. We're using Wirecast. We had this backpack filled with equipment. And once the building was built, once we had the super deluxe stuff, you know, some of the complications were far bigger than what. So I like the idea, and I think that fast, cheap, and out of control mantra for what we're doing here, and however we do it, makes a lot of sense. You know, I mean, I like that maybe is one of our, you know, first principles guiding this talk and guiding what we're doing, because we've learned a lot over the years through not getting too caught up in post-production. Was it perfect? Does everybody, you know, did I sound stupid, which is kind of going to be, you know, assumed. Like, you know, and just getting the stuff out there and getting the discussion flow, even just for us. You know, other people would be great, but for us four, I mean, we didn't have that really up until now unless we were all there.
And it's funny, like, you know, when we first started doing it, it was, I don't know, a month or two after I started working at DTLT, and we figured out Wowza, which was like a media server setup on Amazon Web Services as a way to stream things out. Google Hangouts didn't exist. YouTube streaming didn't exist. There were some services out there like Ustream and Livestream that cost quite a bit of money, and their free versions had a whole ton of ads, and they really sucked. And so they just weren't even useful. Like, you would go to invite someone to watch your live stream, and they'd watch an ad at the beginning and every like 5 minutes during your live stream. And so it wasn't even a starter. And so we were figuring out like Wowza and, like you mentioned, Wirecast, Jim. But, you know, for me, I wonder, like, if it had been so easy like this, like it just like for people now to open a Hangout is nothing. I wonder if I would have been as interested in it, because it's like, for me, the way my brain works is like, I want a little bit of a challenge. Like, even with this, it was easy with the Hangout. So the first thing I wanted to do was like, okay, so we'll get a microphone, we'll run it routed around here. So we've got headphones going in, we've got the camera here, I can connect it on my laptop and share my screen, and I've got a TV in front of us that we're watching you all on. And so like, I started to complicate things a little bit just because it's in my nature, and I kind of like that complication a little bit. If it gets too complicated, which inevitably, as things get more expensive, they tend to get more complicated. That's the case. I went back to Wirecast today to look at it and consider whether or not we would think of using that. And I was like, oh, like to do that would be quite a bit, because Wirecast it's an intense piece of software, and it's only gotten more intense in the years. It's gotten really powerful in the convening years, but at the same time, that comes at a cost of like how easy can it be to just pick it up and get going. So I like the idea of things being cheap and easy, but I do like to add in those complications and say, okay, well, if that part of it's easy, awesome, because now we can complicate it in other ways. How are we going to bring in a remote guest here, but have their screen show up and do that and kind of play around a little bit with that? And that's just the media junkie in me wanting to play around with some of that stuff, I think.
Yeah, and I think, perfection can often be the enemy of bad.
Yeah.
And I think if we want to be bad, we've got to forsake perfection.
Yeah.
And I think too that also perfection also limits you in that aspect. And I feel like we just have that open process that we just want to push things out, that like perfection doesn't matter, and perfection's not going to stop us in that aspect.
I frankly think that's why we stopped doing DTLT today. Not that we were overworked. We were working hard all the time anyway, but we really early on made it a mantra to just sit down and talk and do it, just do it or whatever. And I think at some point we probably thought, well, these need to be like, we need to really have something to think about, and what kind of topics would we talk about? And we started to go too far down that realm of like, well, it needs to be this produced thing versus just like sit down, shut up, and talk about something. So yeah, absolutely. I think, just trying to get into that mindset of keeping it casual is a useful thing. Which
actually is a point of contention for me now, at least with you, Tim. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring this stuff out on live video. So you say that, right? And, I agree with you. But then you make this perfect intro.
Right, we do need to talk about that.
Like that happens. It's beautiful. And then we're
it's a production.
Stumbling. Maybe we should point to the people to that now.
I make casual look good. That's yeah.
Tim, why don't you talk about how you made the intro?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing, because you can see that intro video and think like, holy cow, what did they hire a professional to like build this whole line graphic? Like, and I didn't. I actually only spent a few hours last night putting that together, because it's a template that I bought online along with the audio for it. I've been a regular user. Some of our users out there might know of ThemeForest, which is an online marketplace for buying WordPress themes, but it's part of a larger marketplace called Envato. And Envato has Audio Jungle, which is where I got the audio for it. It was $12, so $12 to get the audio for it, and then the After Effects file, which was the template that I used to build out that intro sequence, which was like $20. So,
and didn't you also use a template for the domains video as well, like the reclaim?
For our reclaim video one, and I'll link to that in the episode show notes, because that's a good point. Yeah, I've done this kind of stuff. I wish I had this stuff back when I was a student, because if I had known like I could have spent, a few dollars and had some assets and materials that I wouldn't have to like belabor over. It's a huge thing. And so, somebody had done the heavy lifting. Obviously, there was some work involved with After Effects, because you're still basically encoding graphics and things. You have to bring in the pictures and do stuff like that. It's not as easy as like PowerPoint, but, it was pretty seamless. And I was able to put together something that looks pretty darn professional, I think.
There's still a drag and drop method, as opposed to let's build this from scratch,
Yeah, and then you could tweak it if you wanted to. If you wanted to add different graphics in or change the timing. Actually, the audio that I got was 30 seconds long, and the opener is 42 seconds. So I had to bring it into GarageBand and find like a looping segment and cut it to make it a little bit longer. So it wasn't.
Still, you don't even notice anything like that. It's just cool.
Yeah, it was just a little fun thing that I could do. And I did something like that, with DTLT today too. Early on, we didn't have much in the way of some kind of opener or something. And so I had done a very similar thing where I went and bought a template and used it. And I'm not too concerned. I'm not the kind of person that's worried about like, oh, but somebody else has bought it too, so there's videos out there that look identical to ours. Who cares? I mean,
but the cool thing with those templates though, and this is this is the same deal for the Reclaim video promo video, where it's you add in your own images, so you do make it your own, and that
just
for
like
me was the coolest.
Yeah, just
part.
like a WordPress theme, right? Like you might buy a theme, but it's really what you do with it that makes it interesting. When you're building a site, it's not really the theme that makes it, and the more interesting sites are how you build it out.
It's like a slot for the audio world.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, I made the intro video. We don't have a logo yet. I guess that could be something. No logo. A bare bones website. So I'll mention the website and I'll link it in the show notes as well. We're going to do today.reclaimhosting.com. And right now, I've been playing around with a service called Fireside. We had a great, you remember the community forum post that's about podcasts generators and podcast software and things like that? I want to say Tim Clapdoor started it. But other people chimed in with what they were doing. Some people are playing around with Jekyll. Some people using WordPress, and there's plugins that you can do for that. And I'm totally on the fence. I don't know what's the right answer. I love WordPress, but it's always kind of daunting to me to think about like firing up a WordPress install, finding all the plugins, the themes to really build something out. And so for me, I was kind of like, let's play around with this. And so fireside.fm is a hosted service. It's run by Dan Benjamin from the 5x5 network. And so, it was a quick and easy way to get up and running. They can publish to Apple. They can do all the heavy lifting in terms of the management side of things. And they put a decent front end website on there for it as well. But we may switch that out. I'm not married to that piece of it at all. So I think that's still very much in production.
Well, that offers me another opportunity to say something, which is like, this isn't really a podcast though, is it? Like, don't we hate podcasts in general? Like, aren't they like now, like I kind of hated that podcast got popular again.
Yeah.
Oh man. I enjoy podcasts a lot. Yeah.
I tried them. I think podcasts, they're like, if you can't watch a YouTube video, I guess maybe you could if like you don't have enough bandwidth, you can't watch the video, maybe you can download the audio and listen to it in your car on the way to work, you poor sap.
You don't have the gigabytes available on your plan to watch the full thing. No, I mean, yeah. As long as we don't call it a vodcast, like that to me is the worst term ever.
Eye roll, yeah.
We are blogging. You know what I mean? Like, forget this. We're video blogging.
No, we're not. I refuse to be a blog. I refuse. I'd like to think that we are a podcast that is also going to have some screen shares every now and then. So it's going to be available on all different media.
I've been working on my like and subscribe for more. So I could throw that out at the end of every episode.
Yeah, we have to bring that back.
Podcast, like, don't we have to heat up tea, cuddly, and take off our shoes,
right?
Speak nice, and
but it's old school. It's RSS, so Alan Levine's got to love it, right?
And to be frank, before our meetings, we normally get Jim saying, "All right, I'm going to go make a cup of coffee. I'll be right back." So. There, if this is an extension of our meetings that we already do, you already make coffee before the meeting.
But it's not green herbal tea, and I don't have my Mr. Rogers sweater on, which I
know. And
know
nobody's forcing you.
My podcasting, he's trendy, so I understand that. But I'm just saying, I just want to voice my. I don't assume podcast is is an unquestioned good. Let me just put it down there.
Well, nobody is going to force you to drink herbal tea.
As long as we make it on Brian Alexander's next list of what he's listening to, I'll feel accomplished. So that's my goal. So if he ends up watching this episode or any in the future, like that's where I want to be.
We have to talk about severed body parts then, and the devil's depiction in various Hollywood films.
Got to play to the audience.
Talk about the uncanny in Silicon Valley. I mean, I know how we can get on this list. I just don't know if we're ready and willing.
Yeah. Well, with that, is there anything else that we should talk about for this, or should we wrap it up?
I mean, what's coming in the future? What can people expect
So what was on the list? Do you remember?
I am going to talk about the new WordPress, Gutenberg.
Gutenberg.
I just have the list. It's just reloading right now. Tim is going to talk about a Zeit Now, which I'm not entirely sure what that is. And then, oh yeah. That's what you found on Twitter, Jim.
Yeah.
And then Lauren, you're going to talk about your Digits and Melon workshop.
That's mid-August, so that'll come a little later.
Yeah.
But basically, I think we just want to treat this as a place to talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
And showcase the work
on.
too. Like, I mean, we talked about being able to like get Tom Woodward on here to talk about like what they're doing at Alt Lab and the work that he's doing with the Karlstadt University, getting NYU on here to talk about their domains program, or Oklahoma and other places. So I'm even repping our, domains conference shirt here. So like, I think it is a space where we can bring in the community to talk about what they're doing and really highlight their work in a different way as well, which is incredibly usul.
I don't know how you all feel about this, but I'd like to do a show maybe on podcasting. I think we could work that out, right?
Could you make it so that the video like devolves and like falls apart as you're doing it, and then that will be like the death of it?
I'm stuck in radio. How?
So, yeah,
it's broken down on me.
Lots of cool things going on. I didn't set up any like social media specifically for Reclaim today. I figure we'll just use Reclaim hosting, the Twitter account, our YouTube channel, and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, we got enough social media. We should be fine.
Yeah, and Twitter's on the the bag. It's going out of style anyway. If you're one of the cool people, you've already quit Twitter and Facebook. Yeah,
and you're listening to podcasts exclusively.
You are, absolutely, and going to the gym and doing Spartan races. So that's that's how you know that you're in a good place. So
I want to ask. I mean, before we do get off, and I think I just want to say, I think this has been a wonderful episode. I couldn't be happier.
Thank you.
But I do think like we have to start. Are we going to transfer the episodes to VHS tape? And then, I do think that's something.
I do like that. I like that a lot. So we'll put our high schooler working from Reclaim Video on that. So
yeah, his name is Xander. We could bring him on.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, it's true.
That'd be fun. Do a live broadcast and pull the TV up to the window so people, even if the shop is closed, they can see the episode airing.
Yeah. Everything we have is fairly mobile. So we definitely, I think we will do either the next episode or a future episode for sure from Reclaim Video and do some episodes there too. So I love the idea. I don't know that I can like actually have the camera be the the VHS camera that we have, although that would be cool too. But yeah.
How do we feel about the brick wall? I mean, is it inviting? Is it a little bit, too?
I think we need a sign. We need a sign. We need to bring a clock. Something's got to be
like right here.
Open.
Yeah.
Especially if we were to get a Reclaim Today logo or something.
Yeah.
You could just put something right there.
Too professional for me. Can't do it. No. Too polished.
Or then maybe just the clock, and it could be, because our Reclaim hosting clock is broken, but we could put it on the time where we want to start our podcast.
We might want to edit that piece out, because if we do use the clock, I think the ongoing the gag needs to be, oh my God, time flies. It's already.
There is no editing.
It's never moved. The whole time
frozen in time.
It's completely on like target. Like we never question that it's right. Oh, the clock says 10:15. It's time to stop, and we only bring that up at the end of the episode. Yeah. And it won't be 10:15,
regardless of the time. Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for getting it going.
Yeah.
No problem. We'll see y'all later.
Sounds good.
Peace.
Bye-bye.